Um, it's a beautiful Tuesday morning, and we're glad that you could join us for our October Four River SHRM meeting. This is our next to last one for this year, which is crazy to think about that we have gotten here so quickly. So we're glad you could be with us this morning. Thank you to all of those that came to Green Turtle Bay last month. We had a great day. It was a beautiful day to be out of the office for a few hours in the afternoon. We had fun awards, good fellowship, great education moment, and good food. The catering was great too. So all in all, it was a great afternoon. We're going to just move right into some business that we've got. Mary Ann, I think we are excited to announce our new officers and committee chairs for the coming year. Are you ready for that?
I am.
All right. I think she's going to share her screen, and we're going to just reveal that to you all. As long as we don't have technical difficulties.
Isn't that the truth? Nope.
I don't think there's anything more exciting for a president than to announce the next slate of officers for the year. I told him I think this was the thing that I think I stressed about the most all year long, was getting this slate put together. So here we have it, and we are so excited. Catherine Lanier will be coming in as our president. And then we've got Melissa Yates as our vice president. Yay! Thank you, Melissa, for making this commitment. We're excited to have you. Also, Sarah Bennett will be coming in as secretary. And Alan is going to start a new role as treasurer. And I will be your past president, serving as an advisor. And then on the bottom, we have our committee chairs. So we have got Terry Ray with our college committee, Rachel Duncan as conference chair, Marianne Medlock as our membership chair, and communications, and Paige Kendall, DEI, and Deb Domke as our scholarship chair. Scholarship is a new committee that we're bringing back. So we're excited that Deb is going to be handling that for us. And I'm sure she'll work closely some with Terry and others. So congratulations. So here is your slate for next year. Yay. We are thrilled. We think it's going to be a great group, and I'm excited to work with them. Congratulations to you all. Go ahead and mark your calendars for November the 28th. That will be our last meeting for this year. And Gerald Bush is going to be our speaker for that training. So we're excited to have him. Is there anything else as far as business that we need to discuss before we move on? I don't think there was.
I don't think so. I don't have anything else on my end.
Okay. All right. Catherine, I'm going to turn it over to you then, ma'am.
Well, then I'll kick it off with the shortest introductions ever. We have three of our own that are going to speak to us today. We're so excited to have Alan Waddell. This is like the letter, it's the alphabet soup. We have Alan Waddell with CFSB. We have Crystal Valentine with F&B, and we have Beth Riddle with CSI, and they can tell you more about their organizations. I've asked them to introduce themselves. So they are three Four River SHRM members who have participated in and won levels in the Best Places to Work program. And so they are going to lead our discussion. I've got some questions that I might facilitate a little bit, but really excited to hear from our own about this program and how it has impacted their organizations, benefited their organizations, and what they can tell to the rest of us about what it is, how it works, and why they've decided to participate. So why don't we start with Alan? You're at the top of my screen, so let's just start with you.
Awesome.
Will you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your organization, how long y'all been in Best Places to Work, all the things.
Okay. Thanks, Catherine. First, I'm sorry for doing this from my car. I had kind of halfway double booked myself. So I'm sitting in a parking lot doing this for you guys. But so I work with CFSB. So for those of you that may not be familiar, we are Community Financial Services Bank, community bank based here in Western Kentucky. Our primary location is in Benton, with about 265 team members that fill up 8 different banking centers. We have been we've been using the Best Places to Work program for I think 4 years in a row now. It's been an excellent tool. We were a little skeptical in the beginning, primarily because primarily because we didn't know, what all we were getting into. It has a little bit of upfront cost that goes along with it. But overall, we've been very pleased with what we've gotten out of the program. And I have been, as I said, with CFSB for about 11 years as their chief HR officer in the HR department over the last few years. And along one of the things too that I wanted to mention, I think, as far as like our primary motivation for going through with the Best Places to Work program is that the reason why we continue to do it is that it's a great tool. I mean, being able to go and be recognized as one of the best places to work is sort of the icing on the cake, but the real value just comes from the results that you get, the engagement that you get from the team, being able to quickly identify the areas that your company is doing well, as well as areas of opportunity, but then being able to figure out if there are any concentrated areas within your company that need improvement, and areas that you can address. And so I think that's been one of the biggest takeaways for us, is being able to identify areas that we can improve in. Sometimes some things are pretty simple to move the needle, and you don't even realize that they are an issue until you read about them. Others require a much more strategic approach, but I think the biggest lesson we have learned overall is that if we're going to do this, then we have to listen and respond to the feedback. That doesn't mean we can do absolutely everything. Of course, we can't do everything that's listed in there. But what we can do is make sure that people know that they're heard, and that we at least find things that we are able to do. And if there's things that we can't, that we explain the why behind it.
Thank you.
I think
so
that's some of
the.
Yep.
We're going to hear from all of them a little bit more too. So Crystal, you're next up on my screen. So why don't you go next and introduce yourself, who you're with, and a little bit about y'all's journey with Best Places to Work.
Okay. So I'm Crystal Ballantyne, and I'm the Chief Human Resource Officer at F&B Bank. Like Alan, we're a community-based bank here in Western Kentucky. Our headquarters is in Mayfield. So we've been around since 1875, about as long as the Kentucky Derby, from what our marketing team says. But we started Best Places to Work. The first year was I think the survey actually went out at the end of 2020, starting 2021. And the main reason that we started it at that time was because we had a change of presidents. So Marty Nichols was our outgoing president. We had a new president coming in, and we thought this is a really good time to do this as we prepare with new leadership to how to move forward. I went right into Best Places to Work and forgot to tell you more about. I've been in HR for 16 years. I've worked at F&B for 17 years. So for us, I'm like Alan, we kind of watched and observed other people participate in this program for a little while, and then decided that was the right time for us. And I'll tell you, I think it was scary at first. I remember getting the email that our results were ready, and I was a little worried, because when you give people the ability to be completely unanimous or anonymous, not unanimous, anonymous, you just don't ever know what you're going to get back. And so we were pleasantly surprised with some of our results on that, but it's a great program. So we competed in the small category. I think that's under 149, Alan, is that right? And then you guys were in medium, and I think Beth, I think you guys are in the large category for that. So we've got kind of all groups represented here within our panel.
Thank you, Crystal. All right, Beth, tell us a little bit about your role at CSI and your experience with Best Places to Work.
Sure. So my name is Beth Riddle. I am Vice President of Human Resources at CSI. I've been in that role for about 7 years. I've actually been with CSI for almost 30 years, and trying not to give away my age there, but started out at the switchboard and moved into payroll, which grew into benefits, which grew into an HR department, and just kind of gone from there. So been here a long time. First of all, I'll tell you about CSI. We're a financial technology company. On the financial side, we have customers like Crystal, where we do banking software and support for local banks. And then on the technology side, we also do risk analysis and regulatory compliance for all types of customers. So I had to put that plug in there. So we started with Best Places to Work. I can't remember the exact year. I want to say it was about 10 years ago. And really we started out doing it for branding because we were a little bit jealous of our friends at Paducah Bank that we noticed they had been awarded Best Places to Work. And we were like, hey, we're a best place to work too. So why we need to go and get that title. So, but the first time we did it, believe it or not, we didn't win. We didn't place. And so we were a little disappointed, but we took the result and, went through them and really read what people had to say. And it was very eye-opening for the company. I think that, they didn't realize a lot of small things we could do to improve, but also maybe some of the other things that were going on within the company. So we tried again the next year and we did place. And then we, decided to keep doing it year over year. And originally it was about, we wanted the branding and the placing, but what we realized was that this was a great engagement survey and that when you use the same survey year over year, you can really compare apples to apples and see if you're making progress in the different areas or maybe where, new areas that have surfaced since the last time that you took the survey. So it's been a very helpful tool to us over the years.
Thank you so much. So I think maybe a good place to continue our discussion on this is just to talk about sort of the logistics and the process. So what does it look like, the application process, the data gathering, and we've heard about the employee survey, but what other parts are there that you do that's outside of the survey? So who would like to speak to that, just about sort of the basics, the 101 about Best Places to Work?
I can. I have some of it written down, or Crystal, if you want to, that's fine too. Either way. Okay, so just there's a few technical pieces to it, like as far as what is required to participate in the program. So the first thing is registration. That's the most important thing, because if you don't register, you can't do it. So registration is due this year. It's due by December 8th. And so you got some time to kind of think it over, kind of put a business case together if you need funding for it. And one thing to remember is that the registration fee varies based on how many employees are within your organization. And so this includes all employees, but then they will only survey employees that are working in the state of Kentucky. If you're a multi-state company, this is for the state of Kentucky. So the cost is anywhere from $1,100 to $1,600 for registration, and that depends again on how many employees that you have. And that is for the online version of the survey. They have the option to do paper surveys, but I've never done that, but it's more expensive too if you do the paper version. So online is good. Some of the basic things to know about how that survey process is going to work is that if you have less than 150 employees, they will send a survey to 100% of your population. If you have more than 150, then as a general rule, they are going to survey a sampling of your employees. There is an option for some customization on this survey. So for example, we have 265 employees, and let's say, because we're over that 150, they're going to survey a sampling, but let's say, well, we want everyone to have the option to take the survey if they want to. We can do that. So I think the price to do that is like $1 per extra survey if you want beyond their sampling size. So there's some customization that you can do for it. The core questions that they will ask your employees, those core questions in which they will base your score on to determine your ranking and whether or not you qualify as one of the best places to work, those core questions do not change. However, you do have the option to add additional questions of your own if you want to. And this is great for things like what Beth just told us, is that if you have specific things that aren't already covered on their survey that are specific to your organization, you can add those questions to the survey. Just know they don't count towards your ranking or anything, but it's great feedback for you. There's an additional cost to do that, but I don't think it's too bad. And then the other piece to this is upon registration, what they're going to do is they'll send you a confirmation confirmation email to let you know, hey, you've registered. Here's your invoice. Please pay us. And then also, they're going to give you some of the steps of what you need to do going forward. And so some of the first things you'll do is you will provide a marketing contact. So who's the person in charge of your marketing so that they can send press releases to them and all of that? Who's the person in charge of IT or information security so that you can get their email addresses whitelisted, so whenever they send out your employee surveys, they don't all go to their junk mail. And then there are a few other things like that. Who runs your company? What size are you? Just some basic demographic type questions. And then shortly after the kickoff, sometime after December 8th, you will do an employer survey. And that's where typically the person that signs up for the survey is the one that does the employer survey. And that's where you're answering all of your basic general questions about your company. What type of benefits do you offer? How much do you pay? What percentage of health insurance do you cover? How much time off do you give? How much volunteer time do you allow? All of those things that could potentially rank you as one of the best places to work. And so they get a baseline for your company. And then shortly after that, that's when they'll kick off all the employee surveys. And so your team will get them all kind of at the same time. They will send you weekly reminders. You need to have a benchmark. A certain percentage of your employees have to take the survey in order for you to even be considered eligible. But furthermore, if you want, how this is going to work is you will upload a list of all of your employees and their email addresses. If you have specific demographics that you want to capture and kind of put together, you can send them for, again, an extra fee. You can send them, for example, if you want your departments all linked together on your report so that it's not randomized, you can go ahead and upload the list of everybody's name, their email, and the department that you want them associated with, so that whenever they get their email link, then the survey already knows what department they belong to. It's completely anonymous. No matter how hard you try, they will not tell you who the person is. But what that does is that allows you to help make sure that you have 100% accurate linking for that, so that nobody can, when they open the survey, they can't select a different department or anything like that. You're truly getting accurate results when that happens. So those are some of the generic things to know as far as what the survey process looks like and some of the other customizations you can do. When you do get the results, the feedback, you do have the option. They'll give you so many different reports, but you also have the option to have some of the reports reworked and reorganized. You can pay for some additional services like that. I will say, even if this is just your first year, you can pay for the general registration fee and you will get so much information and it will all be great. And then moving forward years after that, you can always do something different, try different things out.
So I'm curious, from all three of you, what kind of customizations or tweaking have you found useful, whether you've done it or whether you've thought about doing it?
I'll start first because we did not do any. This is our third year to participate and we did not do any customization. So we did just the basic survey results. And we've been pleased with the results that we have gotten, but we are a smaller company. We don't have, we have 128 people. So we're smaller than both of the others. So maybe the customization worked better for them.
Yes, we did a few customizations. First of all, we send this survey to every employee each year because we want to see the total results. We feel it's a little bit more accurate comparing year over year if you have all of the employees contributing. But we have customized as far as the way we break down the results. So we've broken it down between business groups, added a couple of levels that weren't included. And one thing I did want to add to Alan's description is that if you have less than 5 people within a group or an area, it will not show you the results. So this helps so that for it to remain anonymous, because I know there's a lot of people afraid of well, if I put my race or, gender or my age, that's going to limit it down to 3 people that they'll know the results from. So they are good at not giving that away. But then another thing we typically add a few questions at the end. And so I know during COVID, We added some questions related to COVID. We've added questions relating to work from home and remote work, things like that, so that we could, take that opportunity to dive a little deeper and get some answers to areas we were looking for without having to send out another survey.
Yeah, that's a good point, Beth. You're exactly right. There are some ways that you can do that, and you can use some of the results to create what we use as like pulse surveys, where you're like, oh, this one is a little confusing, or I'm not 100% sure what they meant by this, and so you can ask these little one-off things to kind of help get that. And the piece about that is that's important is it goes back to what we were saying earlier, is that it shows that you're listening and that you read every single comment, because don't spend the money on this if you're not going to read every word of the survey, if you're not going to take their feedback and do something with it. And so that's an important piece to this. The first year, we didn't customize anything the first year. The second year we did. And what we did is we customized the departments. As I mentioned, the departments that they use by default are pretty generic departments. And so we wanted to include more of, banking specific departments that we use. And so that way we can see, for example, we have, tellers or relationship bankers, and we wanted to group all of them together. And so we can see, is there any sort of consensus or anything really good or not so good within that one group of team members, and some different things like that. And that helped us to be much more specific on what we wanted to on the things we wanted to take up and address. The other customization we did is, after it was finished, they'll do like an employee verbatims report, and that's where all the comments come in. The comments come in, and it just gives you, it's just a word dump of what people said. And so, but you can pay for an additional thing where it will at least tell you the department that came from. And that is really good, because that helps you to determine, if there are some specific things listed in those verbatims, and they're all coming from a similar function within the company, then again, that really helps you to narrow in on where you need to focus in certain areas. So, if a big chunk of the comments in there say we don't think we're paid enough money, and then you just read the comments and you think people across the whole company feel this way. But in all actuality, when you see the departments, you're like, oh, this is 2 departments. And holy smokes, they're right. Look at this. We need to work on that. And so that's been one of the advantages we've had for some of the customizations.
Thank you very much. Now, moving on a little bit, I'd love to hear how you all approached executive leadership with the idea of doing this employee survey, if you had done one before or if this was brand new, and how you showed value. I think that would be helpful for the majority of the group that maybe haven't participated in this before. What was your pitch in with executive leadership on why this would be helpful? What were some of the things that helped them get on board?
I think I shared a little bit already with us on that. We had a new president coming in, and she wanted to see where our focus was. And I think any of us on this call today know that no matter how much we communicate, our teams are always going to say we need more communication. And so when we did the survey, it verified that. So we did change the way we communicate on a corporate level, with more consistent base. Like, one of the things our people really wanted to know was how we are doing toward our goals. And so we changed that on a company level of every month by this date, we're going to communicate with you on where we are on our goals. And so we have not missed that deadline, and our employees know what that deadline is. And so for 3 years straight, we've been making that communication commitment to them, and that has made a difference. And so for us, really our main driver behind starting it was to see what we needed to do. And I think that's why we continue to do it, because we want to make sure that we've met the expectations of the employees going forward. And again, it wasn't like I had to convince management to do it. It was the time. It just felt like the right time for us to make that change.
And I would say for us, it was actually the executive team that brought it to us. the first year that they were interested. And again, it's because we started out more with the branding. But then with that, after we did it the first year, then we set up action plans based on the results. And we met with the groups. And we used the generic departments the first year, so it was a little tough. After that, we customized so that we could really narrow it down within each department and business unit. But we took the results to the leaders of each of those groups and said, discuss this with your team. See if you can find out a little bit more on some of these where there's not verbatims, and find out why it's rated like this if they're willing to speak up, and then come up with action plans. Like, what are some things that you can do that may sway this next year? Sometimes there's easy actions you can take that don't cost anything. And, a lot of soft benefits. So that's how we used it that first year. And the executives loved the fact that they did have action plans within each of the units.
I think one of the things in this, and this will depend on your company culture, and you all will know yours certainly better than we would. But I know I've always been thankful that I have been able to say I would like to do this, and I've been allowed to be able to kind of do what I want, and then when it blows up, then I just don't do that thing again. And so, but I've been very thankful that if I come up with an idea and if it's feasible, we've been able to do it. And I would say, your company culture, what your relationship is like with those people. If you need a business case, this is an easy one to make. Employee engagement, retention is everything. And so, being able to make a case for, we need a good way to measure feedback, to get, I would say, beyond our internal surveys, which I'm sure you're already doing. This is different. This is different from an internal survey in the way that you are using. There's this whole thing around statistics about the way you ask a question can determine a response. And so this survey is put together in a way that is neutral, in a way that encourages a true open response, and a response that that gets to how somebody really feels versus leading them to answer in a certain way. And so that's one of the things that makes this pretty unique. And the way that it groups it together, the analytics, you don't have to put the time into this that you would if you were to try and replicate this on your own. You will spend a lot of time trying to put together the reports that they give you, and just how comprehensive the results are, as well as the service that you get even after. And let's say that you don't customize anything, you start getting all your reports back, and you think, oh, this isn't very useful for me because these departments say things like customer service. Our whole company is customer service. We're a sales company or whatever. And it's like, so what you can do at that point is you can reach out to customer service and say, hey, this isn't as useful for me. Is there any way that I can give you the departments? You can do that. I learned this. You can re-upload your employee list, because they know who said it, but they will never tell you. And so no matter what, they will not tell you. And so they won't tell you. They're not going to tell you. And so what you have to do is you can re-upload your employee list to them and give the departments that you want to use. They will rework the whole thing and spit it back out where it's in a report that you can use. You're going to pay for that one, and you're going to pay more than had you done it on the front end. But it is another resource, and it's just another way that they will help you make sure that you have the tools that you need.
And just to clarify, you won't get
you're not going to get the name of the person. And they're not going to make it easy on you to try. And just the way Beth just told us a second ago, is that if there are less than 5 people in a certain category, those results count towards your overall. And on the report, your overall columns, that will be in there. But when you look at your demographic reports, if there are less than 5 people in any demographic, that's age, that's race, that's department, that's job role, you will just see X's down that line, because they are not going to make it to where you can guess who it is.
Hey, Catherine, before we go to the next one, when we were talking about the survey earlier, I wanted to just let people know because it's actually changed since we started, but 80% of the survey results is based on what your employees say. The first year we did it, it was actually 75%, but it is now 80%. And then 20% of the results are based on how you respond to the company questionnaire, like as far as your benefits and things like that. So it's an 80-20 based on the company and based on what the employees say.
Okay, thank
And
you for
they-
that
they-
clarification. Yeah.
And they do have an ethics rule with this survey. So they're very strict on the correspondence that you send out to your team on the survey. So you are not allowed to send out any notifications or videos or any otherwise like education that either incentivizes your team to answer the survey a certain way, or you'll be disqualified if they find out about it. And they will audit that, so they can send random one-off emails to some of your employees and say, can you tell us about the correspondence you received? And so if anything is disclosed where Alan told me that they would give me a $10 gift card if I rated everything, then we're disqualified completely. And so you can't do anything like that. You also cannot, with your correspondence, you can't say, hey, the higher scores that we get, the higher our ranking will be. You can't do anything that would make them feel guilt or otherwise pressured to answer their survey in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
That's important to know as well.
Yeah, excellent. So I'm going to start with Beth on this next one. And just for the whole group, I gave them some preliminary, hey, this is probably what we're going to go over questions. And the generic question was, what has been the impact of this survey and the results? Beth, since you guys have been doing it for 10-ish years, can you talk to us a little bit about, and there's a lot of subcategories here for the rest of you, but what would generally you say would be the impact that you've seen as this survey has progressed and as your employees have not only gotten used to completing it, but also seen the impact and the changes that you've made to maybe to up that trust in the survey over the years?
Sure. So first of all, the impact I would say is that when we first started completing the survey, people didn't want to take it. I mean, you have to have a certain percentage before you can compete for the best places to work. So I don't remember what it was, but it was 50% of your employees. We had to keep pushing like reminders, like Alan said, you can't incentivize them, but you can send reminders like, oh, don't forget the deadline's coming up. But now when we do the survey, we have, I think it was almost 85% participation from the employees in the survey. So to me, that shows that they really trust the process. They know that it's anonymous. They feel comfortable saying what they think. And another thing, I think it's because they've seen results come from the survey. So, one of the examples, when we first started, we only had 6 paid holidays. Well, now we have 8 paid holidays, 2 floating holidays, and a fair share day that we give to anybody who gives 1 hour's pay per month to United Way or to another agency. And that we got all of that from the survey, especially the community involvement. We never realized that that was something that really motivated employees. And that was part of what they loved about our company was our support of United Way and our community involvement. They didn't realize they wanted company support for them to be more active and more involved. So even recently, we have another day called a CSI Cares Day, where if you want to volunteer, take a day and you can volunteer for United Way, for any of the nonprofit agencies. Even if you volunteer to help, for example, take a neighbor for chemotherapy one day because they don't have anybody to take them, that's called a CSI Cares Day. And so you get 8 hours paid leave to do something for your community involvement or just for a loved one that needs help. And those are some of the things that drive our employees. And like I said, it's something that doesn't cost a whole lot. I mean, yes, there's a missed day of work, but the way that it makes employees feel and the engagement that you get from that is huge. And I don't know.
I was going to say, Beth, you said I wanted to make sure I told everyone. So the response rate, if you have If you have more than 24 employees, the response rate required is 40%. If you have less than 25 employees, then you have to have 80%. So just wanted to.
Thank you so much. Alan or Crystal, what would you say has been the impact over the last couple of years? Y'all have all each done it for several years. What have you seen as an important result of participating in the survey?
Alan's hesitating, so I'll go.
No, I was just waiting. I feel like I've ran. So
I think for us, like Beth said, we have added new benefits. We've added new perks that I think our employees appreciate. We added a paid parental leave that started in 2022, and that has received, even people that are way past the childbearing years are like, I'm so glad that I work for a company that is implementing this. We changed our vacation accruals based on some of the feedback and what we were seeing in our company. But more importantly, we have seen our employees be excited. Each year, as our ranking has gone up, they've been excited with us, and they're part of that kind of cheering us on for that. And that's exciting to see everybody on the same page. And we talked about the employee verbatims. I think it was Alan that said that. I wanted to put this out there. I think for the last 3 years, I know the questions have been, what are the top 2 or 3 reasons people like working for your organization? And for us, like Beth just mentioned this, when I look at these verbatims, you see words that come up on everybody, and like we see family and we see community. So it shows that, we talk a lot about us being a family at work, and we talk a lot about being involved in our community. And so those are 2 things that are important to us, but it's also obviously important to our employees, because you see those 2 words I counted family 20 times in the verbatims of 90 people. So 20 people mentioned that was one of the top reasons why one of the top things about working for us. So I think it's good for also just reiterating, am I spending the right time on the things that matter to them and not just the things that matter to me?
Yeah, that's a great point, Crystal. The last statement really kind of sums it up, is that before, we were doing this and we were doing some internal surveys. We think we know what people's priorities are and what the things that they want are. But once we started doing this, we were able to measure it truly, because what we thought were the issues were just the ones that felt comfortable enough to say something. And so sometimes when you hear the same comment from 3 or 4 people, then you think that's the voice of the whole company. When in all actuality, there are times when no, it's just those 3 or 4 people. And then there is a different issue that there is consensus on that we can actually do something with. And so we were able to, from the survey, we learned, we modified how we did we do a team meeting, everybody comes together, and we modified how we did that, and we changed up some of the awards that we do. We added some more pay to those awards. We implemented our health savings account matching program, and we added our 401k, where we have an employee stock ownership plan. And we learned that, people also wanted the option to be able to save for a 401k, because the ESOP, they don't contribute anything to that. That's done by the company, and they wanted a way to be able to save for their own retirement through their paycheck. And so we implemented a 401k and then added a matching program to that. And all of those things are things that came from comments and scores that we received from the Best Places to Work survey, where we learned what people's real priorities are and what people truly wanted. And so we were able to make changes and to implement certain things based on that.
I think all 3 of you have really spoken to changes that you've made. Several of them have surrounded the benefits arena. And one of the questions that I had is, how have you incorporated those survey results into other continuous improvement areas? What outside of benefits has the survey impacted?
Well,
so Alan, you said team meetings, but going along with that.
More.
Well, for us, I thought Alan was going to say something, but if you're, I'll jump in here.
You go ahead.
for us, one of the other places that we have implemented changes, and I don't know if you all know much about CSI, but we've had a lot of changes in the last year that we were acquired by private equity companies. So you can imagine what that does to a, private company that's been run by the shareholders for all these years. So there are a lot of changes. But we were scared to get the results this last year, and our CEO said he even had to pour a bourbon before he sat down to read them because he was, worried. We knew we didn't qualify for the best places, but we still wanted feedback. And the funny thing was, where we had a lot of comments was all around communication, and they felt like suddenly they didn't have the communication that they had before, where we were sharing financials, we were sharing sales wins that we had, contract renewals, all of those things. It was kind of like everything was focusing on the new owners and changes, and they just felt like they weren't hearing enough about what was going on within the company. So that's one of those things that's easy to fix. I mean, we started having bi-weekly huddles, we call them, where the CEO talks for 15 minutes and just talks about anything that's happened in the last 2 weeks that maybe they would want to know about. We re-implemented our town halls, which we had stopped having. So quarterly, we let employees send in questions, but then also they can ask questions on the spot, and he's not afraid to answer questions in front of the company. So it's a company-wide meeting. And then we've also, a few of the departments have started their own little newsletters where they talk about what's going on, like specifically HR will release, here's everything that's been going on in HR this month, and we're preparing for open enrollment, we're doing this, we're doing that. We have new benefits, or, there's been changes to plans. So the employees just really wanted more communication. You just can't have too much when it's a time of change.
Yep, that's a good point. We had one of the areas we had was visibility within our executive team, and our president's really good about visiting all of our banking centers and staying present in there. But one of the areas that came up was they wanted to see the members of the executive team that they normally get emails from, or they get or they'll see in a meeting occasionally, but they wanted them visible in each of the banking centers, and that was something that was important, because when certain clients came in, or just if they had questions, or just showing a gesture of that they weren't kind of on an island basically. And so we had received the directive from our president, said, okay, so everyone on the executive team, you're going to divide and conquer and split this up, but each one of you will spend at least one day a month at another banking center. And so between all of us splitting all of that up, we will consistently be in the banking centers all the time. And so, and that is something that we just started from this last round. And we kind of got away from that because, during COVID, we were huddled in our office. And so, it was very easy to form a new habit of just keeping to yourself. And so that has been something that, I guess, a non-benefit that we took away from it.
Yeah, I would agree. Communication was a big thing. I mean, like I said, we all know that we need to do more of that, but they were able to kind of break down into the verbatims for us, kind of what they were wanting more communication about. And so not just giving them information that they don't want, but making sure we're communicating the things that we like from them, or that they want from us. And Alan, that's something else that we do as well. They like to see us around. So they want us to work, and it never fails. If I work in another market or in another office, someone is coming to me and asking me an HR question while I'm there. And I know they can do that any other time, but they want to come in and sit down and talk to me face to face. So that has been something that we have had as well come from that.
Thank you all very much. So we've got a few more minutes. We've got about 15 minutes left. One of the other questions that I had on there was, just if you have used other surveys, because there's a lot of consultants out there, there's a lot of businesses out there that do this. How does Best Places to Work compare? If you haven't had experience with that, I completely understand. But for any of you that have had experience using other surveys, how do you think this stacks up?
I mean, we have used, I don't know if any of you all have used like NPS scores So we've used those types of surveys. We've created our own surveys, which employees are really not willing to trust whenever you're running it through an engine like SurveyMonkey or something like that. I think the Best Places survey, it's very in depth. There are lots of questions. It doesn't just say, are you happy with your benefits? It goes into the specifics. What do you think about dental? What do you think about vision? What do you think about paid time off? So to me, it gets very granular, and therefore it has results that you can really use, because you can dive in and it gives you the results for each specific question, and you can look at each question within each department. So we're able to see our HR people don't like the vision benefit because every single one of them wears glasses, and they want to get new frames and lenses every year. That was a change we made this past year, was to the vision plan. But to me, I like the fact that it's more granular and you can really drill down and see the results, and not just, you have these promoters, you have these detractors. Well, 75% of your people are neutral. And you only get to ask like 10 questions with that. So that's what I like.
I agree with Beth, and it's definitely not something that you want to do more than one of this type of survey per year, because it is in depth, but you don't have to read between the lines with this one. And so while of course we recommend doing other engagement and other opportunities for feedback all throughout the year, this is the big one for us. This is the one that is the most specific and most detailed. And so now our team has just kind of come to expect that this is one that we want them to participate in. And you can definitely encourage them to participate. Like I said, you just can't incentivize it. You can't require it, that kind of thing. But you can ask them. You can say, please do this. This is something, your feedback's really important to us. We want to know. And so that's important. We've tried other surveys that were similar to this one. And I would say one of the advantages, if you were to use more of a privatized survey where it's just for you, that there's one big advantage and one really big disadvantage. So a big advantage is that you might get your data turned around quicker. And so with this one, your employees are going to take it late December, early January-ish, I believe, and you will get your results around late March. If you hire a consultant to do it, you're probably going to get it turned around much faster. You're probably also going to pay quadruple for that. And so that's one of the big deterrents. So you can get similar results, but you just have to pay a lot more for it, is one of the things we have found. So we have tried other things. We like the Best Places to Work program. A similar one is there's Great Places to Work, right? So there's the National Great Places to Work certification, which isn't as much about a ranking program like Best Places to Work is. It's more like a designation that you would get. And so that one kind of has a similar model, but it's not as much about the ranking and placement as it is just, again, a designation for the company.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Crystal?
I was just going to say, and maybe even wrap up a little bit. Alan was talking about the turnaround. So on the Best Places to Work Kentucky.com website that I put in the chat, you can see all the dates. So December 8th is the deadline. December 15th is the deadline for the email list. And then the surveys will actually be sent on January 19th. And they are due by February 2nd. So there's only like a 2-week window there, 2.5-week window for your employees to do the surveys. But I would recommend everybody at least try it once and see what feedback that you get from that. It's nice to learn areas you need to focus on. And it's also nice to know that you're doing some things right and your people enjoy working for you. I will tell you, so we're in the small category. So 100% of our employees get the survey. The last few years, we've had like 90%, 93% participation. So that tells me that our employees want a voice. And so this gives them an opportunity to have a voice. And I think that is something that people are desperate for these days.
We have a question in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
From Beth Kavanaugh. We're getting ready to undergo a huge software change. We will be doing this in the middle of December. Do you think this would be a bad time for the first time?
I don't know that it matters.
Yeah,
I'll tell you the only reason I would say maybe. It depends on the person doing the employee survey. And the person that's getting the information together to send in. If they are also part of this big software change, then it might be a bad time because of what it puts on you. But otherwise, for what it impacts the rest of the employees, I don't think it would be.
Yeah, I agree, Crystal. There's that you will almost definitely see there are some markers in the survey, like I have the resources I need to do my job successfully, the technology I have is reliable, some things like that. You may see some drawbacks, but that is just a few questions out of the dozens of others that the software change you're going through is not going to change their health insurance, right? It's not going to change it's not going to change how much time off they get. It's not going to change how they feel, generally about their their compensation and all that. But I think if you do the survey, then you want to be careful not to discount everything on there due to the software change. But I would say that if it's your very first year doing it, I would probably wait. That's just me. And I'm just being honest because your first year is a baseline, right? And so you won't get as clear of a baseline if your company's undergoing a massive change while you are doing the survey. That's my opinion. That doesn't mean it's right.
And we do want to allow time for questions. So if anybody wants to pop in the chat or unmute and ask our panel some questions about the survey, whether it's anything that we've already covered that you want to clarify, or if there's anything else that you've thought of, please take that time now. We've got a couple minutes left.
Hi, I have a question since I haven't been to a meeting in a while because I don't know about the invites. I don't know if our company has been blocking them because of Zoom. But with the 3 panelists that have used the best places to work survey, retention rates are really high all across the board in industries. So with you having this title, Best Place to Work, have you seen any trends or do you have any analysis that you've retained much of your workforce because of this title that you are, embarking in this survey? Are you attracting better applicants because of this survey that you do? Because I know right now it's just really hard, I know in our industry, to retain the right employees because we have a great benefit package. So what are you experiencing with retention or attracting the type of employees that would fit your organization?
I can definitely say with recruiting, it has helped. And me specifically, a person that's on my team worked for one of our competitors. And so they weren't ever on the best places to work list. But she said, I loved my company. I wouldn't have considered leaving except for a place like CSI, where I've heard all of these great things. So I definitely think that it helps us to recruit better candidates. For retention, I think that the results have helped us to improve those numbers because we can take the results, make some changes that maybe don't cost a lot, and hopefully retain some of, more of those people. I think we've all been hit with retention problems, especially during COVID, or I know we have. But I do think the results, we see that settling down now. And I think that some of the results have helped us to make changes to improve those numbers.
I agree with that.
That is a perfect assessment, actually.
Thank you so much for that question. Another question from anybody?
And one more thing I meant to add earlier, I don't know if any of you are in other states, multi-state, but one thing that is offered through Best Places to Work, you can do like a national survey, and then you can just pay the entry fees for each of the different states, but they don't have to retake the survey. They filter the results. So like a few years ago, we were voted Best Places to Work, Texas, North Carolina, Kentucky, and then FinTech. So we got all of those awards, but we only completed one survey. So some of you may be interested in that approach.
That's a good point.
Thank you, Beth.
Yeah, that's a good point. I work for a corporation out of Alabama, but my office is in Mayfield. So that was that was going to be another question I was going to ask. Thank you for clarifying.
Oh, good. You're welcome.
Well, it is 2 minutes till. We want to say thank you to our panel. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Crystal. Thank you, Beth. We really appreciate the insight that you've given on best places to work and a lot of both the technical, logistical stuff, but also really how it has impacted your organizations for the better and how you've been able to make some changes and really seen some great growth. So thank you. Crystal or Marianne or anybody else on the board, or do we have any other announcements that we want to make?
So a recording of today's meeting will be linked in our newsletter on Friday, along with a couple of slides mentioning the deadlines and links to best places to work, as well as our 24 board directors.
Excellent. And I've got my Cultivating Culture book right here for those of you that weren't at our meeting at Green Turtle Bay. If you are a member of Four Rivers SHRM in 2023, we have a book for you. There may be people sort of like me who haven't delivered all of mine to my people, so just know they're coming. But we are so excited to present this to you as a thank you gift for your membership for this year. Crystal, anything on your end?
That is all. Just remember November 28th is our next meeting date, and we look forward to seeing you then.
Thank y'all so much. Have a great day.
Thanks. You too.